to releasing American school teacher Mark Fogel in exchange for Alexander Vinnik, a convicted Russian criminal. After that call, we're also learning President Trump called Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump said they discussed the war, and a meeting has been set up in Munich on Friday where Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will represent the U.S. President Zelensky said he and President Trump talked about opportunities to achieve peace. This also comes on the heels of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing a major shift in U.S. policy on Ukraine. During his first trip to NATO, Hegseth says NATO membership for Ukraine is unrealistic, also suggesting that the way forward for Ukraine is for the country to abandon hopes of a return to its pre-2014 borders and prepare for a negotiated settlement with Russia. Secretary Hegseth also indicated that President Trump is determined to get Europe to assume most of the financial and military responsibilities for the defense of Ukraine, including a possible peacekeeping force that would not include U.S. troops. In the meantime, President Trump and his advisor Elon Musk are facing new questions about their efforts to slash government spending and the federal workforce. Peter Alexander has the newest information for us.
To do the right thing.
Overnight, the Trump administration firing the Inspector General, the independent watchdog who oversees USAID. It comes just a day after the IG's office released a report detailing the potential risks of the administration's dramatic downsizing of the agency, according to a letter obtained by NBC News. All of it as the president, in an extraordinary scene in the Oval Office, largely ceded the spotlight to his top lieutenant, Elon Musk, talking about his work reshaping the government.
And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
President Trump and Musk, his 4-year-old son in tow, saying they've identified billions of dollars in fraud and waste without providing specific evidence.
So if there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have?
President Trump also signing a new executive order with more plans to scale back the federal workforce and giving Musk's team power over more hiring decisions. Musk's Doge team's operations have been shrouded in secrecy, entering agencies without warning and accessing sensitive data systems. Musk's companies have major contracts with some of the agencies he's remaking, but the White House says his financial disclosure forms will not be made public.
We actually are trying to be as transparent as possible.
The president also taking another swipe at judges who have held up some of his changes.
Maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's very serious.
While later promising to accept court rulings. Overnight, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor taking a not-so-subtle swipe at President Trump's actions.
Court decisions stand, whether one particular person chooses to abide by them or not. It doesn't change the foundation that it's still a court order that someone will respect at some point.
And just today, the 8 inspectors general fired by President Donald Trump have now filed a federal lawsuit claiming their terminations were unlawful. The Senate has confirmed Tulsi Gabbard to be the next director of national intelligence. The 52-48 vote was largely along party lines. Nearly all Republicans present voted in favor of Gabbard. Senator Mitch McConnell was the only Republican who joined all Democrats in voting against her. Democrats and a handful of Republicans had voiced concerns about her nomination. They cited a 2017 secret meeting with then-President Bashar Assad of Syria, her sympathetic comments about Russia, and her previous support for Edward Snowden. The runway at Reagan National Airport involved in that deadly collision of an American Airlines plane and a military helicopter has now reopened. Runway 33 at DCA has been closed since January 29th. American Airlines Flight 5342 was just seconds away from landing when it collided with that military helicopter. Runway 33 is a secondary runway used to alleviate traffic. The Federal Aviation Administration says its closure caused the agency to limit the number of arrivals per hour. Now, the runway reopening comes as all the wreckage has now been pulled from the Potomac River after that mid-air crash late last month. The NTSB is now analyzing the debris as part of the investigation in the crash, and one of the pilots killed was buried on Tuesday. Jonathan Campos, a pilot aboard American Airlines flight, was laid to rest in his hometown of Brooklyn, New York. Funerals for the other people killed in the tragedy have mostly been scheduled and will take place in the coming days and weeks. Well, after being on the International Space Station months longer than expected, NASA is finally announcing a new target date to bring 2 astronauts home. Tom Costello has more on what we know about the launch.
At your feet, Sonny. Okay.
For months, NASA has insisted Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are not stuck in space. They have a space capsule lifeboat in case they'd ever have to abandon the space station.
Ignition and liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V.
But Butch and Sonny launched on a 10-day mission back on June 5th. Their return trip delayed because NASA didn't trust Boeing's troubled Starliner to bring them home. Instead, they were reassigned to SpaceX Crew 9, staying on station until February. Then candidate Trump called on Elon Musk to bring them home sooner.
You know, he's going to send a rocket up very soon to pick up the 2 guys. How would you like to be stuck in space?
They can return when SpaceX Crew 10 arrives to take over at the station. But then Crew 10's February launch was also delayed. President Trump posting on Truth Social, "I have just asked Elon Musk and SpaceX to go get the 2 brave astronauts." Now NASA and SpaceX say Crew 10 will launch on March 12th. Butch and Sonny should then come back a week or so later on Crew 9.
This is my happy place. I love being up here in space.
In January, Sonny Williams joked that she's ready.
I'm trying to remember what it is like to walk because I haven't walked, I haven't sat down, I haven't laid down. You don't have to. You can just close your eyes and float where you are.
Former astronaut Mike Massimino has been in touch with Sonny. When they get back on Earth, are they going to feel the effects, which some astronauts said they've actually kind of felt sick when they get back to Earth?
They're going to be adjusting their vestibular system. Their balance system will be off maybe a little bit at first, but they'll get that adjusted. They should be plenty strong and healthy because they've been exercising every day. But it's always a bit of an adjustment.
Eventually, we want to go home because we left our families a little while ago, but we have a lot to do while we're up here. We got to get all that stuff done before we go home.
And there's been a lot of speculation about the